Right, no, so did I.
Okay, hi everyone. Welcome and thank you for presented by Future Dragonz Wellington and the New Zealand Film Commission. Here we have our Kathy Loverains and Becky Quick. They'll introduce themselves a little bit later on, but just to get things kicked off, we just wanted to thank some of the here to say a little something. So I'll just introduce Raymond Swin from the New Zealand Film Commission to just have a chat about what it is that he does.
Thanks, Anne. Hello, guys. My name is Raymond from the New Zealand Film Commission. We're very happy to be putting some funds in behind tonight's event to my role at the Film Commission. I sit in the International Relations team, mainly looking at ways, events that we can do to help find talents that have the cultural intelligence to help us facilitate our global partners. So if you have from any in the screen sector to have cultural intelligence and able to help us facilitate some of these transactions. So, if you've got some interests, also tonight, other than the panelists and the Future Dragon group, first of all, our guys from the Film Commission, hands up to them as well. They may stick around afterwards and have a chat. Also, we get her to come up and do a quick 30 seconds of intro. We've got the guys from NZ On Air here tonight as well, just doing again some intro on their work, which will just share some of their current efforts before we get underway. So I won't take up too much time.
Thank you. Hi everyone. I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm Katie Frost and I work with Screen Wellington. And as part of that, we help facilitate productions, small productions right through to the bigger stuff as well, such as AR, VR, gaming and everything like that. So we are there to help support those filmmakers, and we also do business and project attraction as well as talent development and business and sector development. And grow our business and sector in Wellington, and obviously you guys are a really key part of that, so we're really happy to be part of this and continue. So enjoy tonight and we look forward to talking to you guys in the near future. Thanks.
Got Glenn?
Okay, so I'm going to be really quick. Thanks, Blue, for inviting us. So I'm from NZ. Our remit is to actually represent diversity on screen, so it's an important part of what we do. And traditionally we've done that through older series like Asia Down Under, more recently through things like Both Worlds and Arranged, which are programs that play on TV3, and even more recently Friday Night Bites. And we're now about to launch in July, which hopefully will provide more scope for program makers and more diverse content outcomes that we can support across a range of different cultures and communities in New Zealand. So that's what we're here to do. I'll briefly get my colleague Anna to come up, because part of what we do is a diversity survey, which kind of maps people who are making content and who are writing it and directing it, and Anna will tell you about it.
I'm Anna, I'm one of the funding advisors at New Zealand On Air. And yes, this diversity report that we've been publishing, we published the first one. What we do is we survey all the producers, directors and writers to provide their gender and ethnicity information. And what we've been doing, just as a kind of a baseline comparison, is comparing. So what some takeaways from last year's report was that, and this is where I bring out my piece of paper with my statistics on it, 8% of New Zealand's population identified with one or more Asian ethnicities. And according to last year's report, of the 10% of the producers of that content identified as Asian, 2% of directors and 4% of writers, 11.8. That's obviously trending quite a bit lower than that. And I can tell you the report we're about to publish this year, those TV statistics, we haven't seen any movement in that, so they're still quite low. Interestingly, those statistics are a little higher. So for example, in this upcoming report, 16% has one or more Asian ethnicities. So there is some variance there. And the part of us doing this research and continuing to collect this data is to see on any trends.
John?
Hello, my name's John Mackay. We're involved in Asia in our reach is now getting wider to being involved fully in animation projects. We're currently doing a show called Nori, Roller Coaster Boy, in China. And we were actually quite instrumental in introducing the Korean and the China project, and that originated out of Korea. We do all the original English dialogue, which is animated in China, and then it's going currently screening in. Our focus at POW is definitely on North Asia, as we see it is a growing area, and we have actively, which we will be announcing in about a month's time.
Thank you very much. Just one started, I'd really like to thank our Wellington Chinese Association Committee for coming along and supporting this event. We really appreciate it. And just for sort of interest in some stats for us, could I just get a quick show of hands for people in the audience who are above or below the line? Okay, so let's get things started. What I would first like to do is just get everyone. So if you could tell us a little bit about who you are, your main fields of work, what your New Zealand Asian story is. Were you born here? Did you go to high school here? What are the many hyphens? Huiling, can we start with you?
Hi, my name is Huiling Ao. I am currently a producer, but I'm working towards moving towards writing and directing, because I suddenly found I produced an incredibly diverse web series called AFK, but we did, and that is going to change with some New Zealand content in it. And I also wrote a horror web series. So one's fantasy, the other one's horror. And it was based on a concept I came up with called Tease for Talk. Made sure my casting was diverse there, because for me, and it's really morbid. Everybody dies. It doesn't matter. That's kind of gives you a sense of what kind of personality I am. Oh God. I started in acting, and I did act, getting to know who I am when I didn't know who I was. And I just continued acting, and sometimes I got roles, which was awesome. But predominantly it's like a religion for me, acting. So it's a weird thing to say, but it's kind of true. What else is there? Right. Just read it. I did do some plays that toured the country. Well, one of it's called Under the Same Moon, written by Renee. A lot of different Chinese community around the country. I also did, and I also toured Two Fish in a Scoop, and it's fantastic as well. So I've worked in a lot of different sectors, and I'm kind of on the fringe, because the stories I tell are horror or science fiction at this stage, because that's how my brain works. I'm Malaysian born, but I went to England when I was 2 years old till 5. So my first language is Pommy English, technically speaking. I can speak Malay and a little bit of Mandarin, a little bit of Hokkien. I felt like a slight outcast. I came to New Zealand for university, and I haven't left. So, and I think we're doing absolutely wonderful things here. Yeah, that's me.
I am a playwright, and an actor, a performer, and a director, mostly for the stage. I last appeared Yellowface, which is by David Henry Wong, who was shortlisted for the Pulitzer. Reader for the Panagraph Punch, which is a culture website, and the Panagraph Punch really they interest pieces. They're really interested in seeking out diverse artists throughout New Zealand. What else can I say? My family traveled around a lot when I was younger, permanently settling in New Zealand when I was finished my master's in scriptwriting in the International Institute of Modern Letters. And now I'm just working on some more fiend, so I consume a lot of pop culture, and I'm a very big advocate for diversity. Cool. That's me.
Thank you.
I'm Becky Kewick. Actually, I should start saying Quick. I've been saying Kewick, which is like the English version of my name, but it's Quick. Asian and half white. So half Chinese Malaysian on my dad's side and half Caucasian Kiwi on my mum's side, which for myself has been an actor. Obviously, casting becomes an issue when you look. So that kind of adds another little interesting flavour to my just confusing diverse. Predominantly for about 8-9 years now. My first job was in London, and ever since then I've kind of been Australia, New Zealand, maybe America if things go well. And I think that's almost entirely due to a lack of roles. There's just no most part, and so I'm trying to focus on comedies specifically. Trying to focus on sketch writing. I'm looking at writing a little sketch show, stick it on YouTube, see what happens. Get stuck in and create my own work because it can be hard to get work otherwise. But that sounds negative. I actually super love it. Yeah.
Thank you very much, guys. So that's a nice. So we chose the title of our event tonight for a number of reasons. Obviously, a play on the old Star Trek title, which obviously features one of the world's most recognizable Asians. We wanted to pose that question: are Asians the final frontier? I'm going to be using these a lot tonight. Are Asians the final frontier? When I say diverse, I mean diverse in terms of ethnicity. There's obviously a whole raft of issues around. But in terms of ethnicity, are Asians the final frontier in achieving this proportionate representation on stage and screen?
No.
No.
I trade quite specifically in a different way as well. There's always going to be a battle fight for that screen time, because there's so much material now. You're really fighting for people. Back then, the TV was just there. Maybe it started at 5 p.m. and finished at 11. That happened in Malaysia. I would sit through 12 o'clock cartoons. And it's like, it's great. It's like parental control in some ways. But now it's just freeform. It's everywhere. Opinion.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm.
Matt, perspective on perhaps
Sure,
the
yeah.
stage as well.
I feel like Asians are definitely, if not the final frontier, very close to. Whaling. America's a really huge market in the Western world. Native Americans don't really get any representation at all. But in terms of compared to other minorities, the raw deal, we don't get very much out there. I mean, we have Fresh Off the Boat and Dr. Ken cancelled. But it's for stupid love interests. Like, we don't even get those roles. So I think there's definitely a barrier that's still hard for when seeing Asians other than other people.
Yeah, I definitely think, I understand from, because if you look at huge blocks of ethnicities, I think the world, you don't see us on screen, and that makes zero sense because we're the majority and we're not on screen. So I definitely understand where that comes from. But the first thing that springs to mind when you say Asians being the final frontier is, I think, native people from all over the entire world.
Michelle Yeoh is fronting the new Star Trek.
Yes, with a Malaysian accent.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool.
I'd also like to add that New Zealand is very good.
Yeah, comparatively.
So in terms of when you are now, was there sort of a watershed moment where you realised things are going to be brown and the way you look and perhaps your name as well? Was there a point where you thought this could be a thing?
No.
No.
Actually, I never, because it was never drawn, the attention's never drawn that way for me through my journey. Yeah. But saying that, I worked in the corporate world for a very long time, and 17 years ago, I would spell my name to everyone I spoke. To me, that's part of the education, I guess, of saying, hey, my name is Hui Ling, I speak perfect this way, and everyone's like, why don't you have a simpler name? I'm like, because I like my name, you know? So
Definitely subliminally, like I don't think there was like one defining moment. I started out wanting to be an actor, even as a kid, but I wanted to be an actor originally. And then and really tried to push because moms always know. And back then I was like, I can write, but I think it's a good thing that I listened to my mom, because I feel like it's a bit more anonymous work that you put in, whereas if I continued acting, I do still act sometimes. It's not, I don't know if I would personally do that. It's an even more uphill battle than moment, but in a way, I feel like it's always been conditioned in me that I would never.
I was speaking to an actor that I know in Auckland. He said, when you're not white in the screen industry, you often have to work, and this is a quote he took from Scandal, to be fair, you often have to work. I mean, is that something that you've experienced, Becky, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I've always had such an awareness of just the way that I look. I have had like a number of defining moments, or just these kind of just like blind terror when I realized I'm too Asian for this, or I'm too this for so many times, because quick is I feel like they're going to see it and go, oh, she's Asian, we don't want that. You know, she can't tell all these stories. She can tell the Asian ones, but right now we're not. 11 or 12 when I decided I wanted to be an actor, and that was obviously a beautiful moment, a light bulb moment, but then very quickly it changed, and I went, oh, when's the last two mixed race family or a mixed race person on TV? I've never seen. If they're going to cast me, it's not going to make any sense. They're going to cast a white mom and an Asian dad, and it's just too much crap. They're just going to cast a white person. You know, acknowledge that and realize that I never see myself on TV. That, when I look back, and I think that's just so sad.
Yeah.
That I was discouraged at 12 years old because I never see myself. I figured out what I want to do with my life.
Yeah, and I think you know, the other issue around the very rare depictions that you do, they're really bad stereotypes a lot of the time.
They're not
So
good.
I'm a big fan of that amazing episode called Indians on TV,
Yeah,
where
yeah, yeah.
he's having a conversation as he's on set with his friend Ravi, and they both go along to this audition. An accent, like a stereotypical Indian accent for this role, which is unnamed taxi driver, and he refuses. He's not very comfortable doing it. But his friend Ravi is like, "Hey, I'll do it." Just to see where you guys sit on that. I mean, what are some of the hilarious stereotypes that you have encountered? Where does the balance fall for you? Well, maybe we'll start with Becky and work back this way.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Shake it up.
Check it out.
I have a very recent. It's very topical. I just auditioned for that Hawaiian film.
Oh, you did.
When I auditioned, I filmed my audition. It was a US production, so I filmed it, and everyone was sending me that article going, oh, Becky, you're going to hate this. There's this film coming out, and they've cast a white guy in the lead, and I was just like, level of shame. I wasn't really comfortable doing it anyway, but then I thought, work is work. Right,
Yeah.
never work. So I may as well. I look Hawaiian, so I'll take it.
Yeah.
But then I just over the coming week, I should be told by Hawaiian and Japanese people, and I'm neither of those things, so I should not audition. But it just brought up for me this you know, industry is happy for me to play the part. I'm not happy for me to play the part because it's a real story. It should be told by the people that it actually means something to. But it brought up so much stuff. Because I can't tell normal stories about normal people and normal issues, I've got to tell the ethnic stories.
Yeah.
But they're not going to write it for my ethnicity, so it's just I feel I auditioned for the sexy Asian prostitute.
Oh, nice. Yep.
You get that a lot. We have to do.
Yep.
Yeah. I went into an audition and I'm, you know, full of a room of my friends, my fellow female actor friends, and they're all ticking the box in terms of what I know they're looking for. I've got my fucking face and my whiteness and everything, and I'm like, I'm not what you want. I know I'm not what you want. And I go in there and I kind of stumble through the audition, but I finally can audition for something, and I know that I'm not what
Yeah.
I don't know. It's the whole thing.
There's obviously the sort of sexy, submissive Asian masseuse stereotype for women. There's also the nerds. You see, Two Broke Girls comes to mind as a particularly terrible example. Or you've got Long Duk Dong from 16 Candles as well. Very, very old example there. Have you had to deal?
No one will say that to my face, probably.
No.
But you can just feel it, right?
Yeah.
Like it's not. We don't live in a society where you're like, and like you kind of get the drift. You, as people of color, you kind of have to learn code. Like, okay, sweet. As for this issue, Dev versus Ravi, this is the one I've been like, morals
Stewing
with the role, because
So you do the accent?
yeah, it's weird for me because I feel like the most important thing is creating visibility and creating long. As he accumulates fame, he can probably produce things for other people later on, and it's just because if you can transcend the performance, I don't know if they'll let you, but it's hard. We were talking about this earlier in the green room. If Martin Scorsese offers, would you turn it down?
No.
And I'm like, well, morals.
Shamefully.
So there's a lot of discussion I think that needs to go on when it comes to this, and I think it comes down to the individual person. I
Absolutely,
don't think there's a right or wrong answer because it's hard. You know, you have to live sometimes. And in regards to this Ni Hao, I think it was.
Ni Hao, yeah.
Ni Hao, There's a gray area Asian person in the
Yeah.
lead.
It's a big
No gray area.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
no
Wrong.
grey area at all.
Bad.
Just context for the people who aren't aware of this particular casting controversy. The film is called Ni Hao, and it tells the story of basically the story involves no white island prior to the bombing of Pearl Harbor, and the kind of conflict that arose with the native Hawaiian people on the island. So the hero of the story is a man called Ben Kanahele, I believe, and you look at a photo of this guy and he's very, very clearly Polynesian. As to play Ben Kanahele is, in my opinion, looks like a cut-price version of Bradley Cooper. Current point there. Hui-Ling, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, just don't watch those shows.
Yeah.
Your unhappiness, but politely, I guess. And it's because if you approach it head on with anger, too much anger, it just puts people off into their bubbles now. They're like, right, I don't agree with this person, so I don't want to hear any more from that person. You know, conversation definitely helps. Yes, I have gone for all those roles. Indonesian ex-prostitute who found her life again, but
The old hooker with a heart of gold.
yeah, and then exactly, and then I had a child that didn't. But I was going to die either from septicemia or a pelvic broke things. So you can kind of guess what show that is. It's kind of medical. Prostitute roles. It's hard. I think that it's paid. Yes, I'd go in, and I was at a point where if I go in, I want to have a conversation with these makers, the people who write these shows, and why and where it comes from. You know, because I had this, you know, and the thing is that there's a story, there's an arc, whereas we're all side characters with no actual kind of meat behind the characters and stuff like that. So it's you have to kind of infiltrate those roles. You got to be like the Trojan horse, maybe. You have to start writing and creating your own material. I love the type of teams and the diversity and the stories they tell, and it's all not very specific. They're all there to have a great time. I've done 48 Hours for 13, both of it, you know, and the creatives that come out from there. I think New Zealand's a really good place, though. People listen and people talk, and we're able to have. And I had another conversation with a friend of mine. It's like, how do you not change authority? You know, I had this conversation with this male Caucasian friend of mine, and he's like, I feel like there's this massive backlash against white people, and I can't say anything on Facebook. I'm like, welcome to my world for a day. This is what I live my car right because I don't want to be accused of being an Asian driver. I double park it correctly so that, you know, it's like I should really make, you know, and I find an Asian driver, you know. I'm doing the same things, and I'm like, hang on. And then I start like checking myself statistically. I was like, okay, no, she's European. Okay, she's bad too. Yeah, so it's weird, but yeah, and I grew up with a team that's going to show my age a bit. What else did I grow up with? MacGyver. So it's a lot of European England that really influenced how I viewed the world. But I never think myself as what's the
Advantage?
yeah. I never felt that.
Okay.
You know, not in New Zealand.
Yeah.
Definitely in Malaysia. Country.
Whole nother television.
Yeah, so I'm to be in the arts because in Malaysia I've been conditioned to be a specific way and to break free from that and appreciate what's going on in this
Yeah,
country, you know?
absolutely.
Yeah.
So, and bringing the discussion back to New Zealand and in terms of the stories that are told here, you know, we've obviously got a pretty healthy global scale. And there's obviously, you know, given the people who are in the room here tonight, there's obviously a really strong desire to engage and tell more of those New Zealand Asians. It's a New Zealand Asian story. I'm keen to hear, and I'm glad that you all sort of write and create as well as act. What, from an Asian perspective, or you know, the New Zealand Asian story, the number of many Asian, that is more limited than it is to tell it from a more mainstream perspective? That one a little bit. So, I mean, where do the contributions of New Zealand Asians fit in within the broader New Zealand creative landscape? Is there a niche? Is there?
I guess there is. So I'm primarily a stage writer, and I am a patron of Bats Theatre. And I feel like it's a pretty welcoming community. And I think it's very important that we keep producing these stories because I think a lot, and I never get to see myself as a hero on screen, so I need someone like myself writing those roles, and it's very hard. It didn't manifest itself like quite so hugely in my life, but now that I'm reformed, it's like it's my time to fight, because something like the African Americans, they've had to fight for Best Picture winner with black gay boys, and it's amazing. And I want those niche stories, and it's not gonna happen unless we contribute. And
Absolutely.
I feel like I'm speaking from the stage, and I think industry is very welcoming of that.
Yeah.
So I played in Wellington recently, and I have talked to a lot of people, and they don't understand why it's racist.
Okay.
And I'm like, you have to keep telling these stories. You have to keep anger, but
Yeah.
try to have that conversation more than once with
Yeah.
people. And art is a great way to engage people, because it's a visual medium.
Absolutely.
It's just a New Zealand story.
Yeah, definitely.
Why do we have to have that
That category?
the qualifier?
Yeah, absolutely. In terms of what could be done, if you'd answer, what could be changed or opened up or altered in some way to make it
I
easy?
think recently it has actually opened up a lot.
Yeah.
I feel limited at all, and knowing that actual like official like bodies, funding bodies, and that's really empowering. I just kind of feel flattered by that, because you almost have this that's not the case anymore. Audiences want to watch them, people want to fund them. Obviously, we want to make them. I don't feel restricted at all.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I do. So before hoiling
Sorry,
Ghost in the
that was
Shell
me.
here in Wellington at Weta Studios, I feel like there could be a bigger conversation later, right?
Yeah.
But I think. But
Yeah.
But specifically for New Zealand, I feel like them as a company, they should probably, if they've had that discussion, or if they've skirted around it, or what measures they've had. That's one thing I can think of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, the internet, you can create your own, anyone can tell your story. So yes, it boils down to finances really, whether it's sustainable and whether you can pay for it, whether you want to tell these stories. With regards to, I'm on both sector, and also I'm a producer, and some of the management and the relationship management things that you have to do as a producer, it's really hard doing that balance, and obviously for the investors and all that kind of thing, so it has to make money stuff. I've watched their cast is amazing. It's pretty dark. To this LA action, which was open ethnic, him and all that kind of thing. They say, right, we'll deliver and see who gets it. Not him.
Yeah.
So,
Every industry has its gatekeepers. Is that there is an issue around unconscious being a minority and having to do all the having to speak for all of your people, inherent understanding of what that feels like. Do you think casting? I mean, do you think this person's white? I'm white. Do you think that comes into play?
100%. Yeah. Much deeper than that, and it's a lot to do with us. And you want people to watch it. You're going to really, really deep. So you can want to cast more diverse people. Unconscious bias, years and years of looking at yourself to kind of. But I have to say, I find they want to cast you, and they'll pick me in there, and they'll be like, we're really, really gunning. It's not up to. It goes higher than that.
It goes higher than
Yeah.
that. Okay.
Yeah.
The elephant in the room or the ghost in the shell. We've seen that I often find myself Tilda Swinton as the Ancient One in Doctor Strange, and Finn Jones as Iron Fist. Those are. Why do you think? What is terms to justify whitewashing? To buster by casting a terrible quote, but I mean what and
That's freaking out.
visibility. There's issues around
You're in a very so you know this, but Malaysians, they did a guy who was one of borrowers and the Little Mermaid, but I had his control over the whole around the whole world, and yes, there's a lot of talk. It's a way of, and also like, and now the British aliens as well. And it's also like character. So, and especially with everyone dies.
It's also, so casting Jiao to keep their accent. Okay, so yes, we make
them to it, and
that's
don't.
the biggest billing names in Chinese cinema. So
It's such a minefield, right?
It is.
Ghost in the Shell situation is to sell the movie. She is not sure for Cinephile, the new Doctor Strange movie, possibly.
fans and you want to go back to good Asian stereotype.
Of course,
She's like
yeah.
all-
Able to subvert that, and
True,
right?
yeah.
You're not getting
Yeah,
erased
erased.
it. Crazy, and the thing, original story is getting really good at getting all the opportunity to and they just, and I feel like hope that they let the guy who's playing the Hawaii definitely a minefield. Like how many for it to not be racist.
She doesn't have to be Japanese.
But the thing is, I feel Asians in their home countries as heroes. I think represent immigrants who full of white faces, and I keep going back. I identify with Jesse, closest person. I'm grateful to live in some by him as an Indian, but it's part of the show. His culture, and if we
need more than
give us the opportunity to this, right, without being, Mom,
I think it's I think it starts small with normalizing. You don't have to tell out what you see on screen. You don't even get a shot. And then trust.
So just drawing things to a bit of a title what we've talked about tonight, to kind of follow this to put it all from where you are now.
Well, until I never really, which is that stuff, guys. Just make their own show. If you want, guys, is a Chinese. His name is, I think, is Negahiga or something. We haven't even touched on the and coming online. It's what you want.
You guys will be really quick.
What I would say to my younger self is to just, as much as you can, as early on, I didn't take this as like, well, it's just more detect the problem with siblings. To make sure that they live in a world where, just
do it.
Help you. Don't be afraid. If you get a job and you think you got it wrong, to erase any doubt of that.
I feel like my entire, the last, 8 or so years of self to fit into what I thought I was supposed to be. If I'm not this, if I'm not myself, I'm going nowhere. And I really are rooting for me. I've just got to be my true self. And I kind of controversially, Emma Watson, our favorite Hawaiian child.
Emma Stone.
Stone. Did I say Watson? I did not mean that. I meant Stone. She said something along the lines of what sets you apart is that you see as different, that I used to see as the hugest stumbling block in my career is maybe ultimately going to be the
Well, thank you so much, guys. That's plenty of thoughts from up here. Do we have any burning questions in the audience? We might have a floating mic for you.
Gosh. Oh. No.
Questions or comments also available? Yes, hi.
You guys start your careers, and when did you find that this was the path for you in that creative industry?
Let me think about it. You guys answer this. Let me calculate.
I started actively training to be an actor when I was probably about 16. I'm 28 now, so that's closing in on 10 years nearly.
Like the arts, like anything but the arts was like not gotten to second year. I was like, nope, not for me. Thanks, Mom. Both my parents are lawyers, so I had to break it to them, and they were like, it was never not an option for me so I studied at Victoria University, theater and film, and I didn't take it as seriously at first, but I never looked back.
Years ago, I guess, and it was a gradual thing. People who made a lot of things, and I'm an amazing producer because I've got this problem. I've actively tried. I'm doing it now in the last couple of years. 15 years.
Okay, cool.
Wow.
Feeling a bit shy tonight. Question around working in the New Zealand context. Did you ever have a moment, if I had X kind of support, a little easier?
Well, I wrote a script this year because of the women because again, I've been conditioned, like, if it doesn't pay bills, why are you doing it? So I'm like, hey, there's some money that it might pay bills, so I'll write a script. And so yes, it does go for that I can tell my mom and dad, look, I'm not wasting my life or whatever. if it feels so, but yeah.
Yeah, I think training programs and stuff like that are really important, even if it doesn't pay. I feel like training artists to stick to craft and just develop that craft. An Asian Ink competition every year. So if there are any playwrights watching of Asian descent, don't submit so I can win. So it's just the industry skilling.
Okay.
In terms of casting, I've always kind of flirted with the idea of, which is, and I think in America they call it affirmative action. And I know, and it's so controversial. A lot of people don't like it because it's like boxing and numbers, and it's not true art and all that kind of stuff. But we're just not going to get the same amount of opportunities. So I don't know. I just feel like there has to be some kind of attitude toward white or something.
Yeah.
I know that that doesn't exist, and I know that it's going to be a case by case, and it's never going to be perfect. But then at least we would get some opportunities more often than we do currently. But
I'm just do a quick time check on that. Just want to see. We got another couple of minutes. Any more questions from the couple? Cool. Team, thank you very much.
So
This is very entertaining.
Like
Wow.
ice skaters.
Yeah.
I would pay for the show, by the way. Develop it.
Hello. Hi. Hi, I'm Gordon.
Hi.
I work in government, but on the side I write novels.
Great.
Awesome.
Side hustle.
My 92. I was just wondering what your favourite pieces of art or point to as your masterpiece sort of influence, or just your favourite piece.
Wow.
Big question.
I have a few, I guess. Sapphire and Steel. It's a weird kids program, which was it's like Black Mirror, but
For kids.
yeah. I'm showing my age again. I actually grew up on a lot of Hong Kong movies. The only thing they played in Malaysia on the Saturday afternoon. I do love kind of kung fu scenes. They do kung fu so well. And the one which there was a movie called Infernal Affairs, I think.
Yeah.
That's really. I love Doctor Who. You can tell me I'm a genre kind of filmmaker. I love Doctor Who, especially the Link. That was fantastic. In saying all of that, I don't watch horror too much. What other ones? I just
Oh,
Okay,
no.
go.
No,
You go.
I'm just it's a tick. Mine is very.
What options did you
Shouldn't
have?
be
No, I love The Social Network. It's my favorite film.
Oh, I love it. It's a good film. Great film.
Seeing it, I was like, this is my generation, Citizen Kane.
Yeah.
I just think compromising and doesn't compromise. and the other half of that is his best friend who just wants to be part of something great. And on the art, something a bit more Asian-y. I love Wong Kar-wai. If you Kar-wai and In the Mood for Love. Otherwise, I am a huge cinephile of like Douglas Sirk, Werner Fassbender.
Vicky.
That was such a complex, creative, artistic answer. My favorite film ever is The Emperor's New Groove. And I'm not joking. Moana changed my life.
Yep.
Mulan, obviously.
Mulan.
Love a Mulan.
First time. Hold on a minute.
They're trying to do a live action of that, aren't they?
Hey?
Fingers crossed.
This table's
Ming-
keeping a very
Ming-Na?
close eye on that cast.
Mulan was the first movie I've ever seen in the theater.
Neon Evangelion. Does anybody know
Neon
that?
Genesis
yeah.
Evangelion,
Yeah.
yes.
Yes, that's
I think we've
quite.
just got one more question.
Ah,
Further up
yes.
the back there, we'll try and squeeze that in before we get kicked out.
We've talked about tonight about the opportunity from visibility, but also the risk of stereotyping, as well as the growing emergence of people viewing. I mean, do you think would it be I don't know, an achievement if there was like a regular Asian role on Shortland Street, for example? Is
Yeah.
that what
There
we should
was.
be aiming for, or whether it's better to focus on TV that most people watch, or whether to focus on the new avenues which are arising
Well, yeah.
now?
I think we should take over everything. I
Yeah,
think
totally.
The Asian invasion should carry on.
I feel like I
Do
actually
you know
have
about this aggressive behavior I was talking about? It's not helpful.
interesting anecdote about that Shortland Street one, because the role is a Filipino nurse.
Yeah.
And it went to JJ Fong, who is
Yeah.
a Chinese. I think they auditioned any Filipino New Zealand actresses. So I'm like, there's some representation
Yeah.
on screen, but clearly
There's an
we
authenticity
need to
issue.
tell some more
She-
stories so
yeah.
that we have some distinction. But
Yeah.
of my heritage on screen, even
Though
if
they're
it's not, if white people can play Irish and,
Yeah.
but yeah.
I think it's all things. I think that we need to just kind of
Yeah.
make our stuff like being more like funded television that the average Kiwi tunes in every night to watch
Yeah.
Shortland Street. People
Being
who have
average
normal
Kiwis.
jobs and have love lives and problems, then
Yeah.
they're
But
going to start to
that's-
see us as
Which I'm really happy and proud about, and I've helped produce it and production managed it as well, because it's. Roseanne's a friend of mine. Another forum for something else, and she's like saying it's not as successful as what they would like it there. Do you know? And JJ, she's like, I'm a Kiwi New Zealander, man. You know, she's like 2-3 generations. She's just not all that kind of thing, which and there is like a real in Dunedin specifically with there's like a real few generations, so it is important, and people are viewing TV less and less. They're all going online if you're watching and YouTube, so if you don't watch it locally, you'll find it somewhere else. So we need to have more New Zealand accents and stuff.
Also, I have like one very last thing to say about the Shortman Street thing. I just want to not indemnify myself for Filipino actresses. Also, there was this thing. So she had to be Filipina because she was a nurse. Because if she was Chinese, she'd had to be a doctor. So there's still a lot of
stereotypes.
Other Asian ethnicities. So that's a whole other thing to unpack. Not tonight, but
tomorrow, same time.
Hopefully tonight. Very interesting conversations, and I hope we've interested and enlightened you guys tonight. There will be free food. We will hang around and have a chat. We would love to hear your thoughts and conversations. If you're a bit too shy to ask a question in a group forum, please feel free. But most of all, thank you so much for coming along tonight. It's really great to have a room full of people here engaged in this kind of conversation, which obviously we will thank you for your time this evening and enjoy the rest of your night.